Okay, this week's Parsha is Parshas Emor. The Medrash brings a pasuk at the beginning of the Parsha, Yiras HaShem Tahora Omedet, and says, Mi Yira shenisyare Aaron milifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu zacha v'nitna lo haParsha hazu she'ena zaza mimenu v'ad sof kol hadoros. Ve'ezo zo Parshas Hames shene'amar Emor al HaKohanim. Because of the fear that Aaron had of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Yiras HaShem, he merited that this Parsha was given to him, Parshas Emor, laws that remain relevant to him and to his descendants for all generations. So the Medrash is telling us that Aaron, through his superlative level of Yiras Shamayim, he imprinted into the genes of his offspring for all generations this great Kedusha. We still have Kohanim today. One of the strong reassurances of Hashem, and we see this in the Haftorah, about the final Geula, besides that Am Yisrael will survive, which is the greatest nace of all, it's also, along with it, that this most fragile institution of Kehuna, all kinds of situations can derail or be machalal the Kedusha. Nevertheless, Kehuna shall withstand thousands of years of galus, exposure to the elements, to wandering and suffering and subordination. The Haftarah says, "V'hakohanim halavim b'nei tzadok asher shamru es mishmeres mikdashi." That means that when Mashiach will come speedily in our days, there will still be Kohanim Kisherim, those who have carefully watched over the Kehuna. I know a mother, an Ishes Kohen, and how careful she is to check all the Shidduchim of her sons. There will be Kohanim fit to serve in the Bayis Shlishi B'mehera B'yameinu. So we have this question: where do we find that the Yiras HaShem of Aaron in the Torah? I mean, we know that he was very that he was very anav, and he had a lot of Avos Yisrael. But where do we see his Yiras HaShem that's so exemplary? So, if we want to see, we look for Aaron being introduced to us the first time in the Torah, and that's in Parshas Shmos, Perek Daled. Rashi points this out to us. In Parshas Shmos, Hashem had just had a 7-day conversation with Moshe Rabbeinu, trying to convince him to be the leader. He says he can't talk. He has an impediment in his speech. Hashem tells him that Aaron can speak for him. And Hashem tells him that Aaron was on his way to meet him. Vayomer, Hashem says, Halo Aaron achicha halevi, yadati ki daber yidaberhu, v'gam hinehu yotze l'krasecha b'racha v'samach b'libo. Behold, he is coming to meet you, he will see you, and he will rejoice in his heart. Rashi, Hinehu yotze l'krasecha, that's kishetelech l'mitzrayim. V'racha v'samach b'libo, lo kishata savur, shehei makpid alecha shata ola l'gdula. You might assume and think that he's gonna take offense. Here comes Moshe Rabbeinu, ola l'gdula. So, umisham zacha Aaron le'edi ha'choshen hanasun al halev. From there, he was zochet to the choshen which sits on the heart. So, if we look here, Aaron, he was in a great moment of test, a moment of a great test. He proved himself completely devoid of any vestige of jealousy or rivalry towards his younger brother, Moshe. What did he feel? No jealousy. Baracha v'samach. It doesn't say v'samach. Samach b'libo. Deep in his heart, pure and genuine joy for his younger brother, having been chosen by Hashem. Jealousy? Isn't it true that we're most jealous of those with whom we have the most in common? If some anonymous person wins the lottery, who cares? Or gets a job with a high salary? Bemet. The sting that we feel is negligible compared to if it's our classmate or next door neighbor or, like here, younger brother. The rule is the more we have in common with someone, the more we're aware of the differences between us, and these differences, the more they disturb us, and that's why sibling rivalry is a most common phenomenon. in the Torah. Sefer Shmos is Sefer Hasheni. But we have Bereshis. And right away in Sefer Bereshis we're introduced to Cain v'Hevel. That brotherhood didn't end very well at all. And what about the Mechiras Yosef also? Aaron was completely above these natural petty calculations. And what's the secret of his success? Yiras HaShem. He possessed constant Yiras HaShem. Yiras HaShem is the fear, the awe that results when a person is aware, when he's standing before Hashem, every moment in the presence of Melech Malchei Hamlachim. Hashem created him as a unique individual with a unique task, and he feels so small, but he knows that Hashem provides him every moment with all that's necessary to fulfill that task. He feels so small, he feels completely nullified in Hashem's presence. The Yiras HaShem has no time at all to pay attention to how his accomplishments and achievements measure up to those around him. He has his tafkid he has to do. He has no time or energy to waste on the irrelevant. So it's the Yiras HaShem that gives a person the focus in life. You know, we have two verbs in Lashon HaKodesh. They're very close in spelling. How do we say to see is lir'os? How do we say to fear is lira? The root of lir'os, resh aleph yud. The root of fear, yud resh aleph. And these two verbs even share certain conjugations. If we take third person plural in the future, asid rabim guf shlishi, how do we say it? Yiru, they will see. Yiru, they will fear. In order that we don't get confused, the Torah even changes the spelling when we're talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that we don't think that they see Hashem. How do we say Yiras HaShem Kadoshav? They fear Hashem. They will fear Hashem. If you look carefully at the nikud there, instead of saying Yiru, like we would say for seeing, or we would say for anything else, Yiru, if for any other phenomenon besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu, fearing, Yiras HaShem Kadoshav, it doesn't have a chirik under the yud. It has a shva under the yud, and the resh is with the shuruk of the end of the word, and the aleph just goes silent. Yaru instead of yiru. That's it. We don't get confused because lo yirani ha'adam b'chai. However, Rav Tzadok says that there is a connection. Yiras HaShem. Yira is re'iyah b'kedusha. It's spiritual sight. As in, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. Tzaddikim are known to always have the Shem Havaya constantly before their eyes. And, like for example, I heard about Rabbi Yoshua Leib Difskin, who was always putting the Yud Kei Vav Kei in front of him. That was his focus. The tzaddikim even could tell, according to how the letters appeared before them, what they had to be focusing on. Whether it was the Yud, or the first Hey, or the last Hey, or whatever. So, complete focus. We can't say that Aaron was detached because he was so focused. He wasn't detached from his surroundings. Aaron was so connected to the people and their problems. He was a Ohev Shalom, Verodev Shalom. He knew exactly what to say in order to reconnect the people. But in this week's Parsha, Parshas Emor, our attention is brought also to a different story at the end of the Parsha with quite a different conclusion. The account of a person who did make his comparisons and did draw his conclusions and where that brought to him. We're talking about Vayetze ben Isha Israelis, Fu ben Ish Mitzri, Toch b'nei Yisrael, Vahinatzu b'machane ben ha-Yisraelis v'ish ha-Yisraeli, Vahikov ben ha-Isha ha-Yisraelis es Hashem vayikalel. So this person, he was Jewish. He had a Jewish mother, but his father wasn't Jewish. And he went to pitch his tent in the wrong place. Because his mother wasn't from Shevet Dan, he wanted to put his tent there, but the Shvatim in Am Yisrael go according to the father. So he was told that that's forbidden, and he made the comparison, like we said, The more in common that a person has, the more the differences bother him. So he was acutely aware that he had a Jewish mother. He couldn't make peace, but that was not his place in Shevet Dan. Ish al machanehu, the ish al diglo. Everyone has a place in the machaneh of Am Yisrael. And to think that a person should be in a different, to think that I should be in a different place, or I want to be in a different place than I am, that's to go totally out of focus. That's called hakina. What does it tell us in Pirkei Avos? Motzias ha'adam min ha'olam, unbridled jealousy, eventually brings a person to lose faith. And that's what happened with him. He had a place. Everyone had a place. There were all kinds of people that went along with Am Yisrael. And I bring the example of Shmaya va'Avtalyon, who were Gerim. They couldn't be Kohanim because they were Gerim, but they were the Roshei Sanhedrin. How much greater can you get than that? So the Torah, which is the Torah's Chaim, Chukei Chaim, so sharply draws for us the alternatives. It doesn't work when we have a rat race in society. It doesn't work because what happens with the people that first I want to quote from the Maharal. He said that when a person who has superiority of intelligence is applauded, that means we make a big deal about it. We are over on miskabed beklon chavero. We're over on malbin pnei chavero barabim. Because what happens is it's a terrible kind of situation. It is very destructive, and it very much it is impediment for the advancement of Klal Yisrael. Because those are the so-called chachamim that are applauded. They have a very big problem. They have a very big problem of gaiva, and the gaiva is a very big problem for someone that wants to learn Torah. A person ezehu chacham, the true chacham, is lo made mikol ha'adam. But if a person has gaiva, they think that they're smarter than everyone and that they have nothing to learn from everybody. A Talmud Chacham is called Talmud because he learns from everybody, even himself. Okay, well, it's a very big stunt to creativity. It's a very big problem that he doesn't see other people, he doesn't learn from them and can't help them. And also the people that are the so-called losers. What happens to them? They fall to the wayside. They don't want to be in this situation where there's so much competition. They're even whatever they have, and everyone has something. Everyone has something very great. I myself, I'm a tour guide. I've given my tour many, many, many times, but I always know that if I'm going to listen to someone else, that's my competitor, so-called, someone else in the same field, I always have something to learn because every person has their own take on reality. Everyone has input that can enrich everyone else. And that's called collective intelligence. And if not, we have collective stupidity, Rahman al-Itzlan. So, and you might ask me, but it's good. Kinas Sofrim, Tar B'Chachma, rivalry between the Sofrim, between Chachamim, scholars, it increases wisdom. But this does not mean, Chas v'Shalom, it doesn't mean that we're supposed to try to outdo others in our spiritual achievements, in Limud Torah, in Chesed, or in any of the realms. Rather, we are encouraged to observe and learn from others' spiritual strengths and strive for the same for ourselves. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has enough matanos and shefa to go around for everybody. Who can we learn this from? The greatest, Moshe Rabbeinu. He was told that there were two Nevi'im, Eldad v'Medad, and they were prophesying, but not just any Nevuah, they were prophesying Moshe Meis. Yoshua maknisanu la'aretz. So what was Moshe Rabbeinu's response when he heard that there's these two new Nevi'im and they're saying that Moshe is going to end his term? Vayomer lo Moshe, hamakane atali, are you being jealous for me? I don't need that. Mi yiten kol am Hashem Nevi'im, ki yiten Hashem es rucho alehem. Halavai, if only all of Hashem's nation could be Nevi'im. So, yeah, that's the conclusion. We have to keep our society, our families, as far away as we can from the pressures of unhealthy competition, for ourselves, for our children. There was a certain Hasidic Rebbe I remember reading about in Europe. He had many sons. He told each of them to settle in a different town so they wouldn't have that problem of comparing themselves with each other, because nothing good, meaningful, or permanent comes out of trying to prove that we're superior than those around us. We have to concentrate on imbuing ourselves and our families with Yiras HaShem, Siyata Dishmaya, Yiras HaShem, Tahora, Cumeded, to discover and fulfill each of our individual roles on earth with the focus that each one of us, we're standing before Hashem. How small we are, our main thing is to focus on what we can, with all of our kelim, with all of our talent, with all of our gifts, what we can contribute to the world. So we said, Yiras HaShem Tahora Cumeded, and Yarmuna Yirat HaShem, and that comes after Beis Aaron, that comes after all the groups. The highest is Yirat HaShem, Ki La'olam Chasto. Let those who fear Hashem affirm that His kindness is eternal.